What is going on, everybody? It is Alex coming back at you with another video, and today I'm breaking down the top 16 quarterbacks in the 2024 NFL Draft. I want to get you guys this early because there was a lot of guys who I've already scouted who decided to return, and there's a lot of guys that we've already seen a lot of, so there's very little shooting in the dark on this way too early one, which is really awesome. And I was planning on just doing 10, and I just kept having another dude I wanted to include, another dude I wanted to include, so very excited for it. There's going to be even more dudes on here that I haven't listed, and it's kind of crazy because last year's draft, there was probably 5 guys I really enjoyed watching, 6 guys, and then there was starting to be some real big haze this year. And again, there's of course guys will go back, but there's still a large pool of players that I really do enjoy. So we are so close to 8,000 subscribers. You guys have been amazing and showing the love for me. Let's continue that, and let's hit that follow, hit the like button as well. It does help the algorithm out a little bit. And then let's just get right into this. We don't have to really waste much time with the top of the draft class, do we? We can still waste a little bit of time. The bottom are just dream fits I think are semi-realistic. You know, it is what it is. I'm not going to give you guys also a BS comp. If I feel like it is, I'm comfortable enough telling you about it, then we'll talk about it. The grades are from 2022 tape, so keep that in mind. And I'm not going to give you guys official grades until I've watched a player completely. So if you guys get a little bit bummed out about that NA there, I do apologize, but I'm not going to lower my standard just to give you guys that type of content. I want to give you guys good informed content. But at the same time, I haven't gone into a deep dive on Caleb Williams, but we kind of know a lot about how Caleb Williams plays. But obviously, this dude is known as the next Mahomes. His playmaking ability is off the charts. Of course, that's a catch-22. If you're doing a lot of playmaking, usually you're taking high risks. He obviously had an injury last year that kind of derailed the end of his career or end of his season there. And that was really unfortunate. I wanted to see him push into the playoffs and be a legitimate contender there. But, you know, he's been doing a really, really good job. He was trained up by Lincoln Riley, continues to be trained by Lincoln Riley, and he's shown that he can go from conference to conference and still play extremely well. You know, he sometimes has some balls that, you know, die out in mid-airs, and maybe that's just a little bit because he's so off-platform half of the time that, you know, maybe the mechanics aren't 100%, but this dude's going to be a top 2 selection. He's going to be the number 1 pick, but I'm just leaving a little bit of room in case some team is like a little bit too excited to get Marvin Harrison Jr., but that is my guess. Obviously, I do think that the Cardinals and Tampa Bay will probably be numbers 1 and 2. Maybe the Falcons could be squeezing in there for a move up if they don't feel like Ritter is the guy, which I don't think anybody thinks Ritter is better than Caleb Williams, and if you do, I don't really know what to tell you. Also, note on Caleb Williams, he literally was, he pretty much benched a guy who was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick in Spencer Rattler, who lacked that leadership quality. Everybody was behind Caleb Williams, and everybody always has. Haven't really heard too much negative about Caleb there, so good for him. He is a great leader. Drake Maye, not a big surprise at number 2. He does have some weird accuracy fluctuations. There's that special route by Josh Downs that everybody likes to look at where he pretty much threw it into the dirt. And I even watched his tight end. I'm blanking on the tight end's name right now, but I watched his tight end actually, gave him an in-depth grade, did a tape study on him. And like he overthrew a couple of those passes, and I was a little bit confused, but it might have been on purpose. I think 2023 tape is going to be a lot more explanatory than 2022 when this kid is just getting it going. So excited to see him take another step up, get more experience. But yeah, there were some certainly big head scratching plays for him. But man, those high level plays are god tier. I saw him, he bails out of the pocket really quickly. That's another thing I don't like that much about him is that, you know, you got guys who are really pocket aware, like Bryce Young, and he's not. Drake Maye is just not. You'll see him step up into a clean pocket and then he'll bail out left. But then he'll make some crazy on the move throw where it is just on the money. If you guys, I'm forgetting, I think it's against Notre Dame. If you guys watched that game, unbelievable. That was early on too, so you guys don't even have to watch very much of the game to see it. Unbelievable throw. So he does have those god tier throws. It's just the long sleeves, or like longer looking sleeves, kind of reminded me of Eli Manning, but this dude he takes hits. And for me, I just felt like, he was a diluted version of what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table. Big arm, good mobility, big playmaking ability, but sometimes can get a little bit wonky here and there with the inconsistency. And yeah, I mean, I honestly feel pretty confident with an Aaron Rodgers comparison, just not as good. And, I could see that if the Titans are up there, they would want to, bring some competition for Will Levis. I don't think Will Levis being a early second round pick is going to necessarily make the team much more in the mood for a quarterback like Drake Maye. But if the Cardinals are sitting there at pick number 1, they get a huge offer to move back, and Kyler still can't stay healthy. Maybe he comes back and gets injured again. They could certainly see him as a potential option there. If I were able to redo that dream fit to give you guys something new, I would say the Packers could be in that realm. They just gave Jordan Love a 1-year, $20 million extension. But if they're sitting there in the top 5 and they see this dude, why not? So we'll see about it. But yeah, Drake Maye he's absolutely incredible. Just there are some head scratching plays there for sure. Next we got Quinn Ewers. I think he was one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best, to come out of high school. Formerly an Ohio State Buckeye, he decided to leave to go to University of Texas at Austin, and he's had a little bit of a bumpy road there. He was en route to almost beat Alabama, and he got injured. He got literally driven into the ground by a defensive lineman. I'm forgetting who. I think it might have been Dallas Turner, if I'm not mistaken. But, I mean, I think that, injury could be a legit question, especially since he's sub 210. And, I mean, Bryce Young weighed 204 pounds, so, think of that as you will. But obviously he has crazy arm angles. Like I think it was he was at Clemson for a pro day or, one of those workouts, private workouts. And he was throwing the ball like literally like this is his torso. His arm's out here throwing pure sidearm the whole time. This guy can have incredible arm slots. I just think that could lead to a little bit of inaccuracy. But he has these high-level throws that are very NFL caliber. I just want the consistency to increase. And that's a big issue that I have with his entire class is the consistency of high-level plays. There is just this roller coaster of play. And it could certainly mean that this class is not going to be as good as maybe what we want it to be. But it certainly offers a lot more options than what we've seen over the past year or two. So definitely, I think that he could be a top-tier talent. I can see the Lions, if they just don't feel comfortable. Jared, I heard that they're trying to give him an extension, but you never know. Seahawks can always use a guy to sit and develop. I think Geno's a great choice to be able to continue moving a franchise, but, his age is real. And then you got, of course, the Falcons, because I just don't have faith in the Falcons. But I think that there's a lot of similarities to Matthew Stafford in his game, and I think that's going to be it's going to obviously be a ceiling as Matt Stafford, but not the most athletic, but not really unathletic. Mechanics need to be a little bit tweaked here and there, but I think this could be early Matt Stafford, and if he develops properly, I mean, I would love to see him, honestly, on the Rams. I would love to see him grow for a year, but I don't know much longer Matthew Stafford is going to play. This is a long shot, but I'm a big Joe Milton fan. Joe Milton has a crazy strong arm. It's just, you could tell the difference when Hendon Hooker was on the field versus when Joe Milton was on the field, just how comfortable the offense was stretching the field. I didn't even know this guy was 6'5", 245 per PFF. Like, that's ridiculous. This dude has a crazy powerful arm, amazing frame, and solid mobility as well. But I'm pretty sure he has only thrown like 3,000 yards on a 5-year career. And last year he did have only 10 touchdowns, but he had 0 interceptions, which is a really nice ratio if you ask me. And it's a big increase from how he was when he last played for Michigan, where his final season he was 4-4 for touchdown to interception ratio. He's just never had a full time to start. And he's never been able to really take the bull by the horns. And, understandably so. Hendon Hooker took a big step up. He's a good quarterback. I think Joe Milton could be one of those guys who makes that big push. And you might be worried about that 6-year senior logo. And I personally am not a huge fan of super seniors. But he also hasn't had very much experience. So it's not like you're getting somebody who's extremely taxed. He's been taking 6 years of hits. You're seeing somebody who is still maybe a little bit older on the age, but younger in terms of his physical capabilities. And again, you can't find 6'5", 245 who has that strong of an arm. I mean, we did this past year with Anthony Richardson, but it's not super duper common. Next, we got a big swing of the bat as well. SHEDEUR Sanders, he's been lighting it up. Extreme athlete. Obviously, Dion he spares no expense when it comes to making sure this team is top of the line. And I'm sure the training for his son is the exact same way. He was absolutely baller last year over there at Jackson State. I think he's going to continue to be a baller there at Colorado. And maybe like I'm getting a little bit too excited about what he could be. And I know I'm probably the guy with the highest grade on SHEDEUR Sanders coming out in terms of my rankings. But I think that his athleticism and I think that his overall polish could lean him being more like Tyler Huntley, which, to be fair, we can't really call him a Pro Bowl quarterback because, he made a Pro Bowl, but they really make a Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? Tyler Huntley, it was somebody who I really liked coming out. And, I'm going to use that comp favorably. I just think that the overall skill set and, the rawness of him right now, but the polish that he could certainly show out, I think it fits really well. And I could see teams that are looking for a succession plan to an older veteran being very excited to test out a player like this. Again, you're not going to find many sons of Deion Sanders who actually can play the quarterback position very well. We'll see how he does when he faces Power 5 defenses. But, I'm excited. I'm really excited because there's a lot of energy there, and he's surrounded by a lot of talent. As a one negative, kind of like the CJ Stroud, it's going to be tough to find that comparative advantage in the NFL that you do in college, but we'll see. We'll see. I think he'll go top 100, but I'm having him here at number 5. You'll see projections where I think they'll go in the NFL draft. I want to show you guys my rankings, but also what I think the NFL rankings will be as well. JJ McCarthy, I did not realize he was sub 200 pounds. That scares the living hell out of me. A lot of people are going to be like, wow, I'm surprised that this guy is not nearly as high as he was on your board before. He makes some really stupid mistakes. I don't know why. There's just some plays there where I'm like, what are you thinking? And if you don't have the frame to match it either, I'm not necessarily going to be super giddy on you. And I am being very polite by putting him here at number 6 in this very deep quarterback class. But he was obviously a lot better than Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara sucked, and it's not too hard to be better than that. And granted, they used the run game a lot, but he did beat Ohio State twice. I can't take that away from him. It's something that's a huge deal for the University of Michigan. A lot of people are going to credit the defense. A lot of people are going to credit the run game. Both of those absolutely valid. But at the end of the day, JJ also had to make some plays, and he did. He did not choke in the big moments, so good for him. Also, he's very mobile, so good for him as well. But yeah, just sometimes I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you throwing? And I could see obviously I love sending guys to Detroit, but similar to all these veteran teams that could be looking for an infusion of youth in that second round, Sam Darnold feels like a good comparison for me. Playmaker, sometimes does some weird stuff, like the ghosts are there. They're seeing the ghosts, but I actually quite like that comparison. I actually do. Let's continue on. Michael Penix is next. A lot of Michael Penix truthers, and I'm one of them. I love Michael Penix. It's a surprise at the fact that I get crapped on for my takes on Michael Penix because I loved him there at Indiana, and I think he's a very good quarterback at UW. He's just old, and he has a lot of injury concerns, but I love he's fun to watch, and he was able to do a really good job there at UW. Indiana, basically I saw him for the first time versus the Ohio State game where, they took him down the field. They did a very good job. And I think he's gotten even better from there. He could certainly be a polished NFL quarterback in a team like the Vikings that might not want to spend too high of draft capital on him because they don't have maybe a 3rd round pick, so can't really move up to get a top tier QB. Might be very comfortable with taking him in the first 2 rounds, or maybe moving back, getting that draft capital, and still selecting a very quality quarterback. But the best ability is availability, and he just hasn't been super available. I think that overall, he's just a really solid quarterback, just age as well as injury. Gonna be a big knocker there, certainly. And some people think that he might end up being a UDFA because of that. I think the medicals are going to be very, very important on determining where he goes in the NFL draft. Next, we got Bo Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. Super excited to see him up here in the top 10. And honestly, he could end up being a lot higher. I think he could be a dark horse quarterback 4 in this class. Very excited to see what Bo can do because he started off really rough versus that Georgia game. But, this dude did a phenomenal job as the season went down the line. It was a very big surprise to see him return to school because I thought he could have certainly been a second or third round selection. He could have easily competed there with Hendon Hooker for an early third. And, maybe he just wants to go balls to the wall and be a second round pick. I'm not going to blame a guy for betting on himself if he can actually pull through. And I think Bo Nix could certainly do that. He has a solid enough frame, 6'2", 213. I mean, we just saw Michael Penix that people love being the exact same weight, an inch taller. But, Bo Nix, he has like the athleticism. You see, he's not a skinny dude. He has some big ass arms, and he definitely is willing to throw it deep. So excited to see that. He does have some hero ball to him, though. I'm a little bit worried about that. This past year was phenomenal in terms of the statistical improvement, but you look at the turnover-worthy plays to big-time throw ratio, until this past year, it's almost been 1-to-1, and that's, to me, a little bit worrisome. But this past year, I think it was 2-to-1, so good for him. I do love seeing that career resurgence. Next, we have Cam Ward. We're going to try to get this guy on the show. Very excited to do that. I also tried to edit that damn logo to have a glow behind it. Was not cooperating, so RIP to that. I know it's a cheap comparison to put him to Malik Willis, but I really do think he might be Malik with a weaker arm and maybe slightly higher upside as a processor. He's a very fun player to watch, very dynamic. Obviously, I believe came from Incarnate Ward. Really, really good player when it comes to, taking that step up and still keeping that level of play. It's just, I think that his balls die. They do. You just see it. He doesn't have the zip. Excuse me. He just doesn't have the zip required for me to be super giddy about him. I can see a team like the Patriots definitely loving to use these type of players because I'm pretty sure that Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi were guys who I said do not have very good zip. But they've been bringing on guys, I believe like Billy Cunningham even was, if I'm not mistaken, brought onto the team. But, they do value these guys with athleticism for sure. And I would love to see him in the Patriots system be able to compete with someone like Mac Jones because it's just a different style of player. And he definitely has a strong enough processor. It's just, again, that inconsistency. He will make these weird reads. But I do like the fact he does throw the ball away. That's good. But yeah, I mean, I think overall he'll be super solid. When the play breaks down, I do trust him to not do too much. But I do think that in structure, he could certainly improve his processing. And then when it looks like the word balanced accuracy, that's a balance between accuracy and ball placement. I think he does a solid job at both. Next, we have Jackson Dart. Could definitely rise up the list. He just didn't wow me too much. Kind of feels like a John Rice Plumlee / Matt Corral combination. That's just me. I think he has a little bit more upside. But, he obviously took over the job for Kedon Slovis there at USC. He's a good kid. Obviously going here to Ole Miss. You're with Lane Kiffin. You're going to be trained well. But it's a weird offense. Obviously, the NFL doesn't think too highly about it based on the fact Matt Corral fell, even though he had a lot of success. I think he could go in a similar range to Matt Corral. But, good enough arm. I mean, he has a lot of upside. He doesn't have that much experience. He was able to play from an early age, so to speak, in college football. So, he does have a lot of potential he could bring to the table. I just haven't been wowed by him yet. And I'm excited to be proven wrong. But, looking at teams like the Titans, they could certainly be looking for a deeper option to compete as well. And then I'm having some familiar culprits here, but when you have 16 quarterbacks, I'm not going to bring up 3 different teams each time. I think there's going to be some consistent guys who might be looking for a value quarterback down the board. Next, we got Tyler Van Dyke. I think he was my quarterback 3 or 4 starting out last year. Maybe he might have been like 5 or 6. Actually, I think he was behind. I think he was QB 5 because I had the same top 4 at the start of the year, which is really cool. Very excited to see that for the past draft class because I had AR at 2 and then it ended up with him being at number 2. But overall, this guy's literally just a stronger armed, worse version of Mac Jones. He had a big regression step last year, so take with that as you will. It's a new system, so obviously, maybe he's not adjusting too well to it, but I really thought he was going to be a top contender in the draft. very happy to see him go back because I think he needs to prove himself. But he could be brought in to compete with Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones if he is a day 3 selection. Just not too much in terms of the upside of athleticism. I toss the Chiefs in there for fun. They could always use a backup quarterback that can step in and be a really good addition to the team. But something of note as well, the U doesn't really have that great of weapons anymore. So you're not really seeing him like similar to SHEDEUR, Sanders, CJ Stroud. These guys with literally all the weapons you could ever ask for. I think that you could see Tyler Van Dyke, taking a step up in the NFL when he gets better guys around him. Next, we got Cam Rising, and I wanted to put this guy way higher. This is somebody who I truly believe in. If he ends up panning out, like, I'm going to be his biggest fanboy. I really like Cam Rising. He's just old as hell, and he does have some weird plays in there for sure. But this dude, I'm telling you, he could be, when I get an official grade, this could be one of our big movers. I really like him. And, it's just I got to see the down-to-down processing a little bit more. I do. He's really clutch. He's able to come up big in big games. I think he beat Caleb Williams, speaking of this past year. He's somebody who's really, really good when the pressure is on. And I think that this guy's, I think I should probably be moving him up into my top 5 or 10. It's definitely somebody who I'm regretting putting this low. Really good player. I just also think that, he is a little bit older, should have come out and decided not to. So a little bit curious about why he did that. Number 13, Jordan Travis, another guy who I really do enjoy. Some people question whether he's going to be a running back, wide receiver in the NFL, or if he can make it as a QB. He has a big enough arm. He makes some really awesome plays there for Florida State. He has some really good weapons, admittedly. Johnny Wilson is a beast. We'll talk about wide receivers at a later date during the summer when we get to watch a little bit more all 22 on him. But, Johnny Wilson's really fun to watch. Jordan Travis is a really good quarterback. You can get the ball to him. I just kind of don't understand I don't know if he's going to actually translate to the NFL, but I can see a team who might want to get a value backup like the Bears with some good athleticism. I know Clayton Tune was just drafted, but I have a lot more faith in Jordan Travis than Clayton Tune. And then the Ravens, you never know if Tyler Huntley wants to take a chance starting elsewhere. I think all those would be great additions. But again, another guy with hero ball ability, he loves to try to be the hero, and sometimes you just got to throw the ball away. And then next we have KEDON SLOVIS. I really like KEDON. Very smart in the pocket. He has the best pocket awareness I have ever seen. Really good mechanics overall as well. Somebody who has good athleticism. And I don't really question his leadership abilities. He just does some stupid stuff, man. And he has a noodle arm. I probably have as strong of an arm as KEDON SLOVIS. He's similar to Jake Haener on that level. And, he couldn't stay healthy. So he's been replaced many times just for these slip-ups over and over again. So we'll see what happens because BYU, that's going to be a very favorable offense, and I think he could take a big step up. I think he's significantly better than Jaron Hall, and I'm very excited to see what they can do. And then next, we got DG UIAGALELEI. Fun fact, I spelled it right the first time, and I did not get to look at it before, so I'll just give myself a little bit of a pat on the back for that one. I think he has a lot of upside. The kid just was a complete failure at a Power 5 school where he was supposed to be the future. And he had a lot of weapons around him, solid enough O-line, just couldn't put it together. And Oregon State, it's a great spot to go and, rewrite your wrongs. So we're excited to see how he's going to do for that. I also just didn't really feel like he loved the game of football. When he played, he didn't look like he was 100% in it. And again, I'm excited to be proven wrong because I never like to doubt someone's character, but unfortunately I did. But teams that could be looking for a guy with some mobility, some size, and looking for a guy with high upside as a backup, the Bears, Steelers, and Eagles could all be doing that because somehow the Eagles got Tanner McKee. I don't know about that one, but, I definitely like this. And ending off the video, DEVIN, LEARY. A lot of people loved this guy. He is old as hell. I forgot to update the slide. RIP to that. So he is not 6'4", 250 pounds. I knew I was going to slip up once. I knew it. Now, I was probably going to be on this slide. So ending off the video poorly in terms of editing. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a description. So don't worry about the graphics too much. DEVIN LEARY, he's a bit older, doesn't really have the most upside. He has a strong arm. I do like that about him, but processing is a big issue for me. and he was one of my lower graded quarterbacks. If I'm not mistaken, he was, I think, like a 63.5 overall grade, which is still fairly close to DJU. And, you know, overall, he's a good backup quarterback. I could still see all these three teams being very excited to bring him into their quarterback room. So maybe wouldn't change that too much. Definitely, I believe, does have a really good motor. He does have those slip-ups. He was not a failure at Clemson. He was not very good at North Carolina State. So maybe we could put it there. Frame, I would probably switch to the more negative side, but I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head what his frame is. That is going to be the video, though. Who did I leave out? Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on the far side. Peace.